these conversations are being had, like people, because I work out of the AR Medcom facility in Pinellas Park. They are talking about this. Like, this is a major conversation point. Is we have a bunch of dietitians, we have a bunch of physical therapists, occupational therapists. How do we get them to units to basically like do their job? One way that we've worked it is with the 200 MPs, linking them up with one of the field hospitals. So a local MP unit is able to, some dietitians and some physical therapists can RST to the local MP unit and at least provide some educational and wellness resources through their expertise and their background. That was our like low level, like we, gave it a try. It worked pretty well. Now it's just getting the word out that can be done and who wants to do it.
Team, welcome back to another week with Drew and Alex at the Mops and Mo's podcast. I have some reporting live from rural North Carolina.
I hear there's been some trash can drama.
Trash can drama. So for folks who know, this will be funny. For most people, they won't give a shit. But I suppose a rather large contingent of special operations folks at Bragg live in the kind of Whispering Pines, Pinehurst area. And for folks that don't know, the Whispering Pines, where I live, is legally a village, which means we have a village council. So we don't have an HOA. We have a village council. Basically like a handful of old people that voted themselves in to like make the rules. I'd be curious your thoughts as to how this went down. So in 2022, they passed an ordinance that you had to screen your trash cans because they didn't want to see.
Before you continue, I did just check live. I have the analytics on our audience. 88.8% of our audience is in the United States. Not a huge shock. You can break it down by region. North Carolina is our most represented state.
Let's go, dude. Tar Heels. I'm going to assume a lot of those live in Whispering Pines. I'm kidding.
They're probably at Bragg, so
I guarantee it. So long story short here, team, 2022, which some simple math will tell you was many moons ago, ordinance came out, did the thing, screened the trash cans, got a letter from the cops last week saying you're in violation because your trash cans have to be hidden. So this last weekend, I spent way too much time hiding my trash cans in my bushes. So if you drive past my house,
normally people just put like a little fence thing that
I had a fence. You're not allowed to see the fence from the street.
Huh.
And I know this because the lady, shout out Robin, you ass, she takes pictures of your stuff from the street and includes it.
Council.
She's in the village. Yeah. And so when you get the little thing, first of all, the cops show up laughing because this is stupid for everybody involved. Like, hey, here's your thing. And there's a picture of your trash cans, but it's like creepy and like somewhat out of focus and like slightly blurry. It's like, this is some like stalking shit. So anyway, if anybody swings by my house in Whispering Pines, my trash cans are hidden in the bushes. Okay. How do you transition from trash cans to Mark Christiani?
Now, before we transition, I've got some closeout stuff to do because now I'm looking at the data on our audience.
Who's our most which country outside of the United States is our?
It's Germany, and it's probably Americans stationed there.
Yeah, the Germans.
But I will say UK is up there, Canada's up there, Australia's up there.
The Commonwealth.
All of those don't have like huge populations of American service members, so we might have like genuine audiences from those countries. My state not representing nearly as strong as your state. I don't know if this is percentage. I think this is percentage of. No, this is percentage of total audience. I think 10% of our total audience is in North Carolina.
Let's go.
No, it's not. It's percentage of our American audience.
Fair enough.
Followed by Texas, followed by Georgia. Like no shockers, large military populations. My Colorado homies are like we're way behind. Like even California's beating us.
California's beating Colorado and listens
in terms of Mops and Mo's listeners. Yeah, you're like North Carolina and Texas both have double the Mops and Mo's listeners as Colorado. So,
but just to be clear, North Carolina's winning.
It is. Yes, that's correct.
So North Carolina and the Commonwealth basically are floating Mops and Mo's.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Apparently.
I do also have to say before we transition to the guest introduction, speaking of the Commonwealth, speaking of Scotland, shout out to Harvey Duns. Harvey is a little boy who lives in Scotland, listens to every single one of our episodes, has no reason to because this is not anything he's interested in. But Harvey, your dad, whose name's Ross, texted me, told me to say hello. So hi, Harvey.
Hey,
Go
Harvey.
tell Ross. Hey, Harvey. He's probably pissing his pants right now. But anyway, transitioning from trash statistics, Harvey, who are we talking to? Who are we talking to this week?
Our guest this week is prolific blog contributor Mark
That is true.
Christiani.
Yeah, prolific.
Before I even proceed with the intro, our audience should know if you have something you want to contribute, our blog is like very much open to guest authors. Mark has been dominating that space, like 5-part series on fitness for the reserve. He did some like conditioning protocol stuff previously. MVP of guest posts on the blog. Mark Christiani.
I think he committed to one a month some time ago.
That's a lot. He's more committed to our blog than we are.
That is true.
Mark is an Army veteran, served in Ranger Regiment before transitioning into the human performance space. As you'll hear in the episode, he currently works with O2X as an on-site human performance specialist at the 81st Readiness Division, Army Reserve. Mark served as the brigade lead strength and conditioning coach under GAP Solutions for not just any brigade.
My brigade.
For the 44th Medical Brigade.
Let's go.
And he holds a Master's of Science in Sports Medicine from Georgia Southern. He's a certified strength and conditioning specialist and registered strength and conditioning coach. Drew, what did we talk to Mark about?
This seems to be a recurring theme. Podcast episodes coming out of Discord conversations and blog posts and that sort of, just like internally homegrown conversations. And that's one of these. So National Guard, Reserve, some folks might say Compo 2, Compo 3.
And let's be clear, in this one, it's specifically Reserve.
Right. Reserve.
Yeah, part-time
tomato, potato. But effectively how we could conceptualize, or really how Mark is running H2F, embedded human performance, call it whatever you want, for the reserve component, for the part-time component. Obviously this is like, it's a whole shadow world that I think a lot of us active duty types are not super familiar with, and it presents a very interesting problem set, and Mark is kind of at the forefront of solving some of those problems. Case in point, the 5-part blog series that you mentioned. But yeah, no, just quick shout out on mine. Like you said, Mark worked with me for a long time. He was my lead strength coach. And so it's really cool to see him now flourishing in this environment. Super smart dude. So probably just the beginning of the part-time soldier tactical athlete conversation. But I know there's a large percentage of those stats that you just rattled off. A large percentage of those listeners are in that world. And so hopefully this is useful for those folks.
All right. Anything else before we launch into the episode?
Harvey, go to bed. That's it. Enjoy. Okay. Profiles, religious exemptions, medical treatment plans.
For the audience that's just joining us live as Drew's reading off of his phone.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, Drew's a little upset about beards.
I'm not upset about beards. I just like... It's absurd the number of things they can come up with to avoid addressing the things that they should be addressing. Like, who cares?
So
is this because the Army's gone soft?
Drew's just doing a terrible job of like getting the audience up to speed on what we're talking about. So I'll get him there. I think his point that he's trying to make and not doing a good job of is we have a new policy on beards. It requires the 90-day reviews. It has like 30, 60, and 90-day treatment times for like folliculae, barbitu, whatever it's called.
If you had pulled that out of your ass, that would have been impressive.
I mean, sorry, I'm not a beard doctor.
Folliculae barbiturae.
But folliculitis barbiturae, is that maybe? I don't know. Drew's point is that there might be other things potentially worth dealing with. And I do think the military can both walk and chew gum at the same time. We can address multiple issues simultaneously, but I can also fully understand a couple things. One, most other militaries around the world do allow beards, and the excuses about gas masks don't actually make any sense.
And they look sick too.
Like some of the like Northern European militaries, like the beards those guys are rocking are solid. But then I understand a lot of the soldier cynicism about, like, is this really the issue we're going to make the priority right now? Like, we haven't addressed some pretty foundational quality of life things related to food.
That's my point. That's
housing and
folliculitis barbae, by the way.
Okay, thank you.
Also known as barber's itch.
Yeah.
So fun fact.
I heard Mark has opinions on this. I'm just gonna.
Yeah. Well, speaking of beards,
My opinion is like you can fight a war with a beard, man. Like, you can't fight a war if your barracks is mold infested. You die every night because you can't breathe. You're getting weird infections from like your living conditions. Like it's fucking wild.
was there a grooming standard in World War II? Like when did we begin?
This version of the issue came from racial integration of the military around the Vietnam era, largely. Like,
interesting.
That's when there started to be more and more like integrated units, and black soldiers were having issues with it. It does predominantly affect African American men. And you can go back and find stuff. I think military.com has done some coverage on like the history of this and where it came from and the statements made at the time. But if you go far enough back in history, you find some like legendary beards on cavalrymen and stuff. Sure. Yeah.
Look at any Civil War picture. Not only beards, but like we should bring back mutton chops.
Beards were effectively banned in the U.S. Army starting with World War I due to the introduction of gas masks. It's the official top result when you Google it.
And that's what we're sticking with? Not like lice or anything like that?
Well, I mean, it probably has a lot more to do with like the image generals wanted in pictures or something. And maybe in World War I, the gas mask sealing issue was a huge deal, but like the studies have been done with modern gas masks, and like with a short beard, you can achieve a seal.
I mean, they were actually using gas in World War I though.
Yeah.
So fair play. But like now, anyway, speaking of beards, speaking of controversy, let's transition to the National Guard.
Not the National Guard, first of all.
Okay,
I do think we need to clarify.
Yes, and that was the first question I was going to ask for both of you, because I know you guys are in that world. Please explain the difference between those two things for myself and also for others.
Army Reserve, federalized, like federal level control.
Sure.
It's still organized into units that are spread out across the country, but like it's a federal entity. National Guard, state level control. You can go on federal orders with the National Guard. It's much more complicated these days. We've seen that in the news recently, but they are two distinct entities. National Guard falls under NGB. Army Reserve falls under USARC. So two distinct entities. Today we're going to talk about the Army Reserve. I think we'll come back to National Guard things at another time, probably. I don't know how much insight Mark has on that side of things, but I will say, just to not miss the opportunity, I think if we're being candid, the National Guard might be a little bit ahead of the Reserve in terms of H2F implementation, but very, very state by state. Only certain states have like put effort into it that I know of.
But you can also go active Guard Reserve.
Yes, there are full-time jobs in both the Guard and the Reserve.
But it's an AGR billet, right?
Yeah.
So it's all three. Active Guard Reserve. I mean, you can see the confusion.
Hopefully. Yes, I can see the confusion.
Okay. Because I get it in theory, but I always screw those two things up. So, and again, maybe this is a question for both of you. Mark, as the guest, I'll give you preference, but let's lay out the current ecosystem of embedded human performance in the Reserve.
Okay.
In the Reserve.
Yeah.
Yes.
In the Army Reserve, there is not.
Go for it.
As far as embedded human performance goes. As for contractors, there are 4 strength and conditioning coach contractors. And
for the whole Reserve.
It's very localized at the 81st Readiness Division right now. So going back, let's go back to the beginning. In 2021, the Army Reserve was like, we need to do this H2F thing. We don't have a lot of money. Let's try and figure this out. So they started a pilot program. Pilot program consisted of workshops around within the 81st Readiness Division, which is the Southeast. So they did workshops, and then in 2022, like late 2022 and in 2023, they brought on a human performance strength and conditioning coach to help with some of those workshops and to provide some additional services. And they had 3 different cohorts: the ones that just got the workshops, the ones that had access to the strength and conditioning coach, who was Brad Pasker, who Alex, I know you know. And then
shout out Brad.
Shout out Brad. And then the ones who had access to no one. The end result of that got published by DHA. And the result said that the more resources you have access to, more workshops, more embedded personnel that you have access to, the better you will do on your ACFT. It's kind of all they
Pause. DHA.
Yeah, their names on the top of the
the same
page.
So DHA published a paper that said more resources equals more success.
As far as ACFT goes, yes.
And this is the same DHA that took resources from HF?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, this is hitting me in real time. That's why I'm knife handing
active
this.
duty compared to reserve.
Oh, so it changes when you it changes when you go active. We can lose some.
Okay. I don't know. Cool. I don't have a good answer. I just know DHA's name is at the top of this.
I just wanted to make sure that's the same Defense Health. What is it? Defense Health Agency? It's not some other.
You got it.
Well, that's one of the stupidest things I've heard today. Okay, keep going.
So from there, it decided to expand upon the pilot and bring 4 embedded human performance personnel to work within units within the 81st Readiness Division. And then also the 200 MPs, their command has a NCOIC and OIC, but no embedded human performance personnel, just the NCOIC, OIC. So we are divided up, the strength coaches, the 4 of us, are divided up into regional bases, not into brigades or units. So I see people from all different units. My location's Tampa, Florida. Orlando is kind of Central Florida. And then I just kind of expand out and do virtual for all of Florida. We've got a coach in Nashville, Tennessee, Charlotte, North Carolina, and then Columbia, South Carolina at the 81st Readiness Division headquarters. It's where they see some large populations of reserve soldiers. So far, we are providing strength and conditioning coach resources to the Army Reserve in those regions, no matter what unit you're in. And because you fall within the 81st Readiness Division AO, which is all the Southeast.
So you cover...
At this point, I got to ask a question. I'm going to interrupt Drew.
Please.
Drew used some very specific language at the beginning of this, and he asked about embedded human performance in the Army Reserve. And as somebody who works in a program where embedded is in my concept of the operation, but I don't think I'm that embedded necessarily in terms of where I'm actually located in the staff and how I operate. I'm wondering, are you guys actually embedded in the way you would envision embedded human performance from a background in active duty H2F, or are we talking about something different here in the reserve setting?
Something different in the reserve setting for right now. The plan is to move to each major subordinate command to have an embedded H2F team consisting of a dietitian, strength coach, athletic trainer, and you'll be organic to that major subordinate command. And then some H2F, they call them HIT teams, H2F integration teams that will be made up of TPU soldiers and go around and train units on all things H2F. Not saying it's the best plan, but it is a different plan because on active duty, it just doesn't work the same way as active duty would, right? It's hard to get through to soldiers when they're there once a month, if that, sometimes. So yeah, definitely needed a different model for it. We're embedded in a different way. We're embedded locally with the units that are in our AO. So I have contacts at all the units in my AO, and they'll call me and be like, hey, we got ACFT, we got an H2F block. Can you do a presentation? Can you come out to ACFT? Can you come out, train us up in a PT session? And I've got 70 units in my AO that I work with in some capacity. So it is a little less embedded, really integrated into the unit. And you're more of a subject matter expert that comes in during battle assembly from time to time, as well as providing resources outside of battle assembly to the soldiers that are asking for it or need it.
Would you, based on how you're explaining this question came to mind. Would you say that in this setting, the preponderance of the interaction has to do with AFT, ACFT prep on the weekend, so to speak? Or is it more, hey, let's train you to be, a proficient, fit, athletic person?
It's more general wellness and how to be healthy. Along with, obviously we get the people that fail their ACFT, that fail their AFT, fail height and weight. And that's kind of bread and butter. We get sent those people all the time, right? When we go to the units, we do a lot of nutrition education, sleep education, just baseline, low level mental performance stuff, as well as the physical side. but we're trying to really push the be healthy. And if you're healthy and live an active life, you're probably going to do fine on your AFT.
Are most reservists, for both of you guys, Alex, you're healthy, so maybe you fall outside the norm, but like, are most reservists in today's military healthy? Like, is this a big issue? Is it a small issue? Like, give me some context.
Reservists fall into like general population along those lines.
So no.
It depends, right? I've got soldiers that are super healthy that, are putting up 20 plus miles a week, like zone 2 cardio style. They're doing some like, a few intense like CrossFit sessions here and there, and they lift some weights. They're very healthy, very fit individuals. I've got soldiers who are strength coaches. They're from every walk of life, right? So it's a good general population number. So they struggle with the same things you would see just from like a gen pop if you worked at a gym. Same issues. So some are healthy, some are not. Most fall in the middle.
It's actually, Alex, I know you and I were talking about having a PT test as like to determine your tax bracket or whatever. Like the reserve is almost that. It's gen pop. You just also happen to have a PT test. And maybe that supports or maybe it undercuts our argument because it doesn't really seem to make a difference if you're telling me that it's still just kind of a gen pop setting. I don't know if that's a question or a thought or whatever, but it just kind of hit me that that's kind of what that is. You have a PT test and you happen to be gen pop.
Yeah. Some people really run with it and use it to their advantage and use it as motivation. And some people not so much.
Can we and sorry, I know I'm like all over the mic, but what does this look like for other branches? And this is a question for both of you guys, but Air Force, Marine Corps, Navy, Reserve Guard, like how does this look across the DoD?
There's a chance Mark knows more about this than I do. The programs I am aware of, I know Air National Guard has some resources for, I think, pilots specifically, maybe air crew as well. And I think there are some resources for like Air Force Special Warfare people.
There is, I do know
in
that.
the reserve component. Beyond that, I don't know what exists.
I would imagine SOCOM in general would be better resource, but just maybe general conventional reservists. What does that look like?
It doesn't.
I don't think it exists for the most, like other than people that fly aircraft or are special operations. I think that's it.
Yeah, that's all my understanding as well. That's all that's out there.
There are programs that exist, and to be clear, this is one we're going to have to, Drew and I are going to have to hash out. I mentioned in a few settings on the social media, on the Discord, I think in a previous podcast episode, that we wanted to create kind of like a page on our website that has a summary of all the different human performance programs that are out there. And one of the things we're going to have to tackle is what counts as a human performance program. Because some legacy programs have started to take on that label a little bit as part of their branding. We got to decide what counts. But there are things like, I honestly don't know what they do, but I've heard many times of building healthy military communities or building healthy Army communities. It's a program that's focused on reserve component people, I believe. I'm not entirely sure what they do or whether they consider themselves human performance. I'll probably do some Googling once I shut up. But there are like resources that are like the wellness centers are available to reserve component soldiers. You can use those resources if you happen to be near a base that has one. And this kind of gets us to a question. I don't know if it's time to talk about it now or we save it for later, but like trying to get into the staffing model when your folks are only there 2 days a month and then they like spread to the winds. Some of them don't even live in that state between battle assemblies. Like you can't put a wellness center everywhere they are. It might be a waste of money to have a whole lot of full-time staff. I don't know. Like you can't provide medical care without them driving hours and hours. I don't know what that looks like. I'm just kind of rambling right now. Hopefully Mark has thought about this more than I have.
Yeah. So we have thought about it. Like there's no way to provide the medical care, right? Like athletic trainers, physical therapists are not going to be able to get their hands on people. You can provide, like dietitians can provide a lot of care virtually. So from that aspect, that's why, like definitely why dietitians should be included in the team here in the reserves. They can provide as much as in person as they can virtually. So they're a great addition to the team. For us, we do a lot of virtual consults and then provide programming to soldiers, but there's also that aspect of we got to kind of trust that you're doing it right, or you got to send us videos, or there's you got to utilize technology or utilize a athlete management system to help with that, getting the programming to people as well. So something like that, it's a little rough on the side when you're trying to compare active duty, where they have those direct access to care providers, to the reserve side. The reserve side has to be a much scaled down version where we interact with the soldiers, yes, during their battle assembly, but we're also there to provide resources during non-battle assembly time. And how do we provide those resources during non-battle assembly time? Hopefully, with some of the localized teams, we're able to hit that in different areas. So like our 4 local guys, we have our local area, and we can get out to people. Like I can drive to your local park and meet you there and do a like personal training session with you and teach you some stuff. But I really like the regional model that we have now, putting a bunch of strength coaches in major reserve centers with like maybe an athletic trainer, dietitian for a region. That lets us reach the most soldiers. And then as far as equipment and facilities, having the major reserve centers outfitted with some base equipment, like some kettlebells, some bands, stuff that people could buy and utilize at their house, allows us to come in, or the H2FIs or whoever's there that with the knowledge to teach people how to work out effectively with those items, and then translate that to their other 28 days, the rest of their life, that they can utilize it. Kind of heard that from one of the sergeant majors I worked with. He told me like he found this program that young soldiers could use for their AFT, and it told them like go buy a sandbag and throw it around their apartment and stuff. And he's like, no soldier is going to throw a sandbag around their apartment. Like this is worthless. So we came up with one that was like kettlebells and bands. You get some kettlebells and bands for under $100, handed it out to all his guys. It's like, here's what you need. Here's a base program. Here's some exercises you can do. And yeah, it works out a little bit better. It's a little more feasible. I don't know who made the like fill up a sandbag and throw it in your apartment plan, but
Mountain Tactical.
buy a kettlebell. It's like $30. You could probably
I will offer. I said I was going to do some Googling once I shut up to check it out, this issue, and like what comes up. This is not an answer to the question of what resources exist for human performance, but I can tell you that if you Google Army Reserve human performance, the top result on Google is a article on our website by Mark. It's the Bridging the Gap article.
Let's go.
The 6th result in Google is our podcast episode with General Harder.
Let's go.
And the 3rd result on Google is the O2X press release about the stuff Mark is doing. So
see, we've cornered the market.
We've got a lot of it right here.
We've spent $0 on search engine optimization. So thank you for clicking our articles.
Team, this episode of Mops and Moes is brought to you by Train Heroic. Train Heroic is a reliable, well-designed platform for programming, tracking, and communicating with athletes. If you've been with us for any length of time, you will know that Train Heroic is the platform that we use to power our own training, long and strong, which you can find at our website, mopsandmoes.com. If you're looking for a solid platform to support your own coaching, whether it's your full-time role or a side hustle, Train Heroic is definitely worth checking out. You can use the link in any of our show notes, you can find it in our newsletter, or you can head to our website, mopsandmoes.com/training to get your first week for free.
Have you, and maybe this is where I put on my good idea fairy hat, which I know we did a little bit with General Harder too, but there's a ton, like the telehealth space is blowing up, like high dollar, low dollar, whatever, just virtual telehealth, telemedicine in the commercial space. Is that something that the Guard/Reserve has investigated as a potential option for this kind of thing? I mean, I've seen it done obviously with strength coaches. You mentioned dietitians. Virtual blood work is like a huge thing now. That might be getting too far into the weeds for the military, but like it seems like there's a model that exists that's being run well. Is that something you guys look at, or is this a totally different problem set?
honestly, like I am not included in those conversations. Like medical health data and stuff like that. That seems like a little bit more of a medical problem. From the strength coach side, we do plenty of like virtual consults for people. We have an athlete management system that we like give people and utilize with people. Again, there's 4 of us, so we do as time permits and like what we can get to when it comes to that. But some of that access to medical care, as far as my understanding goes, that's more of like in the insurance side of things.
So it's time for me to like go off for a second about
This is an
like,
issue, right?
the real hurdles here. And we touched on this a little bit with General Harder in his podcast episode, but it's kind of out of his scope too. In Drew's looking at his dog wandering by.
Dog just walked back behind me.
But in the Army Reserve, the incentives are very different, right? In the active Army, we can help justify H2F by saying, if they're seen by H2F, we can intervene earlier at lower cost, faster access to care, and that just alleviates the burden on the medical treatment facility. In the Reserve, first off, you cannot assume they have health insurance at all. Many of them do not have health insurance, period. Many have health insurance through their day job employers, not the military. Like for me, I'm in the Army Reserve, but my health insurance comes from my day job, not from TRICARE Reserve Select.
The Reserve doesn't give you health insurance?
You get access to TRICARE Reserve Select if you want it. You still pay for it. It's not free like it is in the active Army, and you are not required to have it. So this creates a bunch of considerations that make the math very different for, do we want it? Why do we want it? What would it do? One is that, like, and this is a bigger problem for like fitness in the Reserve in general. If an active duty soldier gets hurt doing physical training for their job, they're going to get care for that. If a Reserve soldier gets hurt doing physical training and it's during battle assembly, they'll go through what's called a line of duty investigation to determine whether the injury was substantially related to or caused by their duties in the Reserve, and then they'll get care provided for it. If they get hurt when they're doing PT on their own time, the Army Reserve will not take care of them. That's on them, right? Unless they have like TRICARE Reserve Select, in which case it's through TRICARE, but they're paying for that. So it's a very different environment where like everybody in the active Army is on TRICARE Prime, and you get all sorts of accesses because of that to medical care. So like providing it in a different setting is just a different way of providing the same resources. If we started providing medical care to soldiers in the Army Reserve, now we're providing them a benefit that didn't exist before. And that's a very different incentive structure to deal with for the service.
Is there a counter argument? Like I hear that and I think we should be doing that, but I'm not as well versed.
The counter argument is it costs money.
Of course it costs money, but like
at the end of the day, like you got to convince somebody just to pay that bill.
Well, then yeah.
Like
I guess you could easily get political with that. But I mean, do the same.
Now I'll offer a different one. This is on the other side of the column. The Army Reserve employs a tremendous number of these medical providers already. The Army Reserve is overstrength on all the same medical specialties that exist on an H2F performance team in the active component. Overstrength on dietitians, overstrength on physical therapists, overstrength on occupational therapists. And those folks in general are not allowed to treat when they are doing their Army Reserve time. So they come to orders at whatever like hospital center they're assigned to, and they can't treat people because of that same insurance issue where you can't assume that they are insured by TRICARE, and there's a whole bunch of liability considerations.
Yep.
So my biggest proposal for the Army Reserve, and I think I brought this up on the General Harder episode, is simply get whoever has the authority to sign a memo and then maybe require the soldiers to sign like liability waivers, but just say, hey, if you're one of these medical professions, we will give you inactive duty for training credit anytime you go to another unit and provide care in your specialty. That counts as training for your job. Now you're providing resources to service members. I think that's the obvious low-hanging solution. We just need a framework for that. I just think they need to figure out how in like a legal, bureaucratic, and organizational way.
Some of the counter argument is that the dietitians, everybody's concentrated in a few commands,
Mhm.
like AR Medcom, 3rd Medical, whatever the one out west is. And they have to kind of clear it with all of their people, right? It would be like, Drew, if you were taking assets from like 44th Med and like dumping them in the 82nd, like it'd be confusing. So these conversations are being had, like people, because I work out of the AR Medcom facility in Pinellas Park. They are talking about this. Like this is a major conversation point. Is we have a bunch of dietitians, we have a bunch of physical therapists, occupational therapists. How do we get them to units to basically like do their job? One way that we've worked it is with the 200 MPs, linking them up with one of the field hospitals. So a local MP unit is able to some dietitians and some physical therapists can RST to the local MP unit and at least provide some educational and wellness resources through their expertise and their background. That was our like low level, like we gave it a try. It worked pretty well. Now it's just getting the word out that that can be done and who wants to do it.
Just to clarify terms for people, I know most of the people who listen to this aren't reserve. When he says RST, all that means is rescheduled training. Rather than doing your unit's normal drill, you go somewhere else, do something else, but it still counts for your training time for the month. I think that's, I'm in no position to do this. I don't know what it would take legally, organizationally, whatever, but it'd be really cool to see some kind of headquarters formed in the Army Reserve whose whole thing is to like identify available resources and where those people are, and then identify units looking for resources like that and just start plugging those things in together. I imagine that would be better training than a lot of these medical folks would normally get during whatever their traditional battle assemblies are without something like this. So it's better for training, it's better for readiness, and it starts to provide resources to these people.
100%. That's where the model using the readiness divisions, the like 81st RD, 99th RD, the readiness divisions. Readiness divisions are confusing to me because I came from active duty. Readiness divisions are these regional commands that are responsible for all the buildings and locations in their command, but aren't necessarily responsible for the units. It is a reserve thing that took me, 9 months now to start to figure out. But they would get an H2F team in the model that's proposed, and that H2F team consisting of an OIC, NCOIC, maybe put a PA there with them, maybe dietitian, whoever it is. I like having a PA there because they're kind of that medical background, can figure it out. That PA and that team can then get those resources that are localized in the area, get everyone figured out where they are, and then units could then go to that readiness division and request H2F support from those TPU soldiers, and then you can RST those TPU soldiers to the designated unit. I did not come up with this.
I was going to say, that sounds very smart.
I definitely didn't come up with this. A PA came up with this, and he is very smart, and it was a good idea. It's being proposed right now at the 81st Readiness Division, doing something kind of like this, but it's a matter of getting everyone communicating and on the same page. And we know how hard that is for active duty. Now imagine how hard that is when you only work like a few days a month.
Well, so my question with some of this is like some of these solutions we've proposed in the past. I mean, obviously there's a price tag associated with it. And there was a price tag associated with regular Army H2F and anything of this nature. There's a price tag, but the argument is always that it offsets the bigger price tag, which is the injuries, the availability of soldiers, yada, yada, yada. Is the reserve struggling with that same situation? I mean, is that a very expensive outlay of cash that this would supplant, and that then justifies the cost? I mean, does that kind of make sense what I'm asking?
Yeah. So reserve has very similar issues, right? When you're not ready, you're not deployable. When you're not deployable, you can't perform your task, and that costs money. On top of that, the reserve also is struggling right now. You've probably seen some military.com articles with a height and weight issue. Soldiers getting removed from military service or not meeting the standard, getting removed from military service, that has a price tag attached to it. And just like on active duty, soldiers can med board from the reserve. That has a price tag attached to it. So with all those things added up, yeah, it does make sense to invest in this. I don't know what it would be like cost wise compared to the active duty component, but there are a lot of reservists all over the country. I would imagine it's a pretty large cost every year. Injuries, failed AFTs, failed height and weight, causing people to get either med boarded or causing people to get boarded out of the military. And we can offset some of that cost by implementing like properly run human performance programs.
I think that's definitely like part of the homework is figuring out what that cost is to convince senior leaders that something like this is worth it. But I do also like the like synergy of just leveraging the resources we already have. I think part of it is, I think it's hard for us to see ourselves in the Army Reserve in terms of even something as simple as getting a map of where all the units are, or like want to go one layer deeper, where do all the soldiers live, right? Like the last like normal Army Reserve assignment I had, which was a couple years ago, the S3 for our battalion equivalent lived in Florida, but our unit was in Virginia, right? Like you don't know where the people are, and like getting a product that showed that would be pretty incredibly difficult to do and require constant data calls. And I'm sure we could automate a lot of that with records we already have, pointing to like better automation of things rather than doing it manually by taskings, but that's a bigger issue for the military in general. I just don't think it's a lot easier to come up with numbers for how much is this costing us and where are the people and who needs what, and figuring out a staffing ratio in an active component unit where you know where everybody lives, you know where everybody works, all that stuff. The reserve is just so much more confusing.
It is like 100%. It is like when I sat down for this position, I got handed 70 units, numbers, not necessarily like any more than just the number for some of them. And they're like, hey, find them all. And then I was told like there's reserve centers in Tampa, Orlando, St. Pete, Clearwater. Like Google them, and you can find them. And I found people, like found them, but there wasn't a whole lot of awareness of where everything was at, like buildings and components, let alone where the people are in their off time.
Has there been, I know there was some effort to do this, and I know there's cool things out there like Gig Eagle, which allows for like putting people on orders for a couple weeks or a couple months based on skills they have, whether they're military or civilian. But has there been an effort to like try and find out how many people in the Army Reserve whose Army Reserve jobs are not medical happen to have human performance civilian careers where they bring that expertise? Like we have like a non-zero number of H2F coaches who are in the Guard and Reserve who like are already doing the thing that could just be utilized in that capacity. I'm sure there's tons of personal trainers. I'm sure there's tons of people who like happen to be medical in their civilian career but aren't in the Army Reserve and may want to do that in their other capacity. Like again, this comes back to like how hard it is to understand what resources we have available in these organizations, but the whole point of the reserve is that you have people who can bring skills to bear when they're needed. Maybe we should figure out what those skills are.
Yeah. So that's something I try to do when I go to units is we'll run through a PT session and you can tell pretty quick, like, man, you know what you're doing. What do you do? And I get people that are say they're personal trainers, like you said, strength coach, play college football, have a good handle on how to like work out, that kind of stuff. And they aren't necessarily empowered to be the H2F person or the fitness leader at their unit because there's just other stuff going on. Like it's busy, 2 days to get through everything that an active unit would get through in a month. So you get pretty busy. They get short on time. But when I try to identify those people, I make sure to let the commands know, first of all, like, hey, this is your personal trainer. He's been a personal trainer for 5 years. This is someone you want to send to H2FI course. This is someone you want to put in front of your unit. This is someone you want to give time to talk about hydration, to talk about physical training. Utilize the resources you have available. I push that a lot to the commanders that I meet with and the people that I meet with, like leverage what you have, because like you said, you have all these people with cool civilian careers. Use it, man. But like, a lot of people won't speak up. Like I was, at a unit, I was talking to a specialist. Turns out she was a strength coach for like 8 years, had been a CrossFit coach for some time, but is a specialist who didn't think it was like her place to speak up. And it's like, no, like you are far smart, like better at this physical training stuff. Like be in charge of the physical training stuff. We can get you in front of the right people. Like I'll vouch for you. Like after a 10-minute conversation, I'll vouch for you. So it's leveraging those people. And then the commands don't really know what to ask for either. Beyond personal trainer, they don't really know what to ask for. Like you might have an exercise physiologist and they're like, oh, what's that? And it's like, well, that person has a kinesiology degree, has advanced certifications. They can probably be really good at the endurance programming because it's part of their job. Leverage them and use them. It's just educating people on what they do have in their formations and kind of what these jobs are and how they can be utilized. It would be really cool to get a mass database of like everyone respond if you're a personal trainer, everyone respond if you're an exercise physiologist, strength coach kind of thing, and get that all figured out. Like you said, the communication piece makes that really difficult in the Army Reserve. I mean, how many times have you sent an email and you find out that the person you emailed doesn't have an active email anymore? Their name's just like on an account.
It's tough. I mean, I wonder about it a lot in my reserve capacity too. Like, how responsive should I be between battle assemblies when they're not paying me? Like, should I be on call? Should I monitor it? They're not paying for me to do it.
How does that work? Are you on call when you're not?
Depends on who you ask.
battle
You
assembly?
can't technically be ordered to do anything unless they put you
I never
on
thought
orders.
about that.
But having been a staff officer and a team leader in Army Reserve capacities, they kind of expect you. I mean, we had, we always had like a meeting during the week before battle assembly that we were expected to be on, even though we weren't paid or accommodated for that. You were expected to like answer calls and emails. Yeah.
So it's like an annoying long distance girlfriend that you see once a month.
It's
and like
one of the classic
occasionally.
jokes is they recruit you with 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, and then you quickly realize that one, it's a lot more than that even without deployments, and two, a lot of Guard and Reserve folks are deployed more than their active counterparts lately. Like they've shouldered a huge share of the burden during the global war on terror in terms of mobilizations, and that's tough when you're trying to also have a civilian career.
Sorry, I know you've got something lined up, but because I'm curious, how does the deployment situation work for reserve?
Somewhat similar to active duty. Mark might have seen more of this than I have. I have not deployed as a reservist. I just have a bunch of friends who have. But there's a little more on the front end in terms of like pre-mobilization, where you come on orders for a little while, go to a mobilization center and get some like basic pre-deployment training. And then you're out the door doing it the same as anybody else. And then you go to a demobilization afterwards.
The frequency is far less, I'm assuming, right?
You would assume that.
But
having gone to like my Bullock and career course with like Guard and Reserve guys as well and stayed in touch with those dudes, I know some Guard, especially guys who deployed way more than active duty.
Guard deploys all the time. Like,
yeah.
Guard is always like.
Can't you choose to go though?
Sometimes.
That you have some influence in it. You can play some games, but like not that much choice.
I'm just realizing how very little I know about this world.
Yeah. No, I was like trying to hunt for deployments on active duty and not getting them, and my Guard buddies were on their like third deployment.
Yeah. So it's all a big lie, is what you're saying.
A lot of it just what unit you're in.
It depends. Okay. It all depends. Like if you're in a Guard unit in Florida, you're going to be mobilized all hurricane season.
That's a good point.
Like, so it just depends.
Yeah. Wild stuff. Hard pivot. Don't have a good transition. This is one we have to talk about during this episode. I have said many times on the Mops and Mo's various platforms that there is no strength and conditioning program that you can do 2 days a month and see any results really whatsoever. So without going on my rant, Mark, what do you do with PT time during battle assembly for traditional drilling reservists?
It's education time. So what we do is I do a lot of run technique, run drill kind of clinics. because I know soldiers are going to have to run and they can pull something away from that. And I'd rather spend an hour 15 teaching them how to do a proper warm up, teaching them what work to rest ratios are for intervals, teaching them what a zone 2 pace is, teaching them, whatever it may be, some run technique things, get out of that, like I call it the lander pattern where you just kind of shuffle your feet and do some of that. It can be, I had a unit that was like, hey, none of us have equipment at home. We don't really have a lot of gym memberships. How do we get a good workout in? And we walked through a bunch of stuff you could do with bands. Like I brought some bands out and we walked through whole workouts. But instead of trying to smoke someone up, the focus is on educating how to work out effectively, because you can teach somebody how to get a good workout in 2 days. And then they can take that and do it for the next month. And then other people I have, they'll do more of like one-on-one sessions, but they want a program. So I give them the program and then I walk them through every exercise in the program. So I know that they're doing it and I can see them doing it correctly. I have to trust that they're going to do it correctly on their own, but it at least gives me like one touch point with them on it. And then the other amount of PT time is used for AFTs because they still have to get the full unit through once a year to do their AFT. So we might have people doing an AFT and then people meeting with me. We're doing run clinic. And then at a different unit, we're doing kettlebell only work, how to utilize your kettlebell at home. And then the other half of the unit is doing AFT. So it is education time. It is time to teach people how to work out, teach people what it feels like to get a good workout in. And I really like to stress that you don't have to be out there for an hour to get a good workout in. If you got 30 minutes, we can do a good workout. If you have 10 minutes in a kettlebell, we can get a good workout in. That's better than 0 minutes sitting at a desk.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to like keep a pretty solid boundary where I don't talk about things that I only was privy to because of my day job on this podcast. But I think I can make an exception for previous day jobs that I'm not in anymore because I gotta get one off my chest that infuriated me.
Wait, what was the previous day job? Can you say or no?
Yeah, well, this is when I worked at HQF headquarters.
Okay.
And I'm not going to name anybody in this situation, mostly because I don't even remember the guy's name. But we did have, like, at the very least, each year around the time of the H2F symposium, we would sit down with the folks trying to make Army Reserve H2F happen. We'd always have conversations with them more than that, but that was like a guaranteed, get a bunch of people around the table, see where this thing is going. Some of the names that I can like speak positively to will be in a link in this bio. If you go to the DHA report that Mark mentioned.
The one that said more resources are better.
Yeah, but it does have an acknowledgments section where it names a few of the folks who were involved in this kind of stuff, and they all did important work. The guy I'm about to talk about was not named in that report. And he came in, I think he was like a major in the reserve or something. He'd done 2 different company commands in the reserve. Dramatically overweight, not physically fit, clearly not a believer in H2F, but for whatever reason had been like assigned this as a responsibility of his, which tells you a little bit about investment of the organization. But his interpretation of that exact same scenario was like, there's no program you can do 2 days a month that's going to meaningfully improve physical fitness. So instead, we are just not going to do it at all. Like I get to buy back a couple hours of training. I don't have to waste time sending people to like shower and change and things like that. Screw it. We will never do PT in my organization while I'm commander. And so like, that's not to like add value or anything. That's just me complaining and saying that like this kind of stuff is happening out there. And if anything, the system rewarded him for that because he was able to accomplish more with the limited training hours he had with his organization.
It happens. Like it definitely happens. I see units that are like, we're not doing PT today because we got something else to do. And they get there still at 6:30 in the morning and they're very busy all the way until 5 o'clock, maybe 6, maybe 7, maybe later, because they just have to get things done. With those units, I try to tell them like, hey, if you're going to have that date, like prioritize 10 minutes. Because you're going to have formation. You're going to have formation. You have to sign in the reserve. You have to sign in, and then you have to sign in again after lunch. You're going to have formation. You have 10 minutes. Utilize that time to bring up one of your people in your unit who hopefully has a background in something fitness or health related, and give them a platform to talk. You're going to be outside all day in South Florida heat. Talk for 10 minutes about hydration. Tell everyone, hey, take your body weight, divide it by 2. That's how many ounces of water I want you to drink today, at least. Like replenish some of those electrolytes, those kind of things. It doesn't take long. And honestly, everyone knows first sergeants love to kind of ramble on a little bit from time to time in front of a formation. Like ramble on about healthy things they can do. Talk about sleep. You're going to go home today. You're going to be tired. It's, we're leaving at 7 p.m. on Sunday. You have to work the next day. Prioritize getting home, getting some food in your system, and getting to sleep. And you can utilize that turf talk time, that 10-minute turf talk time, to educate and actually add value in that situation instead of just writing it off and being like, well we're not going to touch it. Let's move on.
How do you get people to care?
Well, it's a tough question, man. Could read a bunch of books about give them the why.
Yeah, what would Simon Sinek do?
So weirdly, I have a little bit on this one because my current day job, I work in an organization that is like not intrinsically physical, and you have to convince people that it matters. And so a lot of what I do these days is try to get leaders and try to get service members to care about this kind of stuff. I think there are strategies. One is there's research on this. There's research on like affective domain learning. There is research on what kinds of educational interventions produce changes in behaviors. Interestingly, sleep hygiene education is one of the best evidenced in terms of if you teach people about it, they will use what you taught them and change their behavior in a way that positively influences outcomes. Other things less so. If you teach people theory behind resilience, as it turns out, it doesn't actually produce outcomes based on any of the evidence we've seen. Cognitive behavioral therapy works, but like giving somebody 1 or 2 weeks of training on it and expecting them to produce results, it turns out doesn't. I will, this is anecdotal. I don't have the data on this. Data is probably out there. Fear sometimes helps, like letting people know the consequences. Something I talk a lot about lately is the line of fragility. You can like be diagnosed as fragile late in life based on meeting certain criteria. One of those criteria is your VO2 max. I think once your VO2 max falls below like 18 or something like that is where you're like you can no longer perform activities of daily living without exceeding your aerobic threshold. And I meet people regularly, and I'm sure they exist in the Army Reserve, who their VO2 is below 30 and they're in their 20s, which means they're going to reach, without intervention, they're going to reach fragility in like their 40s, where they need like live-in care or they need to go into a nursing home, right? Like that's what that means. Like somebody has to help you live. I don't think fear is the only strategy. I like to make things fun and happy too, but I think having real conversations about that matters.
This is fun, but you're going to die.
But like, so taking things and making them attainable also works really well for me. So when H2F is pitched, a lot of times it's pitched as like, here are 5 pillars. And if you're not doing everything related to those 5 pillars, you're not doing H2F. But we can reformat the framing of H2F, especially for the Army Reserve, and say like, you are doing H2F if you're taking 1 step, if you're making a 1% change. Like if you drink 10 cans of soda, you're doing H2F if you're drinking 1 can of soda for the next month and then maybe 0. But you got to have, maybe someone holds you accountable. You got to have a goal that you're working towards, or maybe just no one's ever told you that you shouldn't drink 10 cans of soda. But education, like Alex said, education in a manner that is interesting. No one wants to hear the sliding filament theory of muscle action. It is the most boring thing ever. And then like trying to explain it to somebody without a biology background, there's no reason to. It's a waste of time. But yeah, explaining sleep, explaining hydration, explaining some basic nutrition. Everyone likes food, or has to eat food at least. Like you can explain some basic nutrition things and people can take that with them. Making sure that people have something with them when they leave. Out of sight, out of mind is a huge thing for us because we are out of sight a lot of the time. So we need to have a way to reach people or have a way for people to reach us. Just in the 9 months that I've been here, I've handed out like 500 business cards to people, just about 500 different exercise programs, done over 500 consultations with people, either virtual or in person. So putting a human face to it as well. Sometimes people see H2F as this like unattainable goal that's only for fit people. But if you can bring it to a level that's like, hey, this is for everybody, we'll meet you at your level and help you out. And then, like, honestly, not being a dick really helps. I
think that's true in life, just generally speaking.
Yeah, general life philosophy. If you sit down and talk to somebody and create a relationship with them 10, 15 minutes and explain to them, hey, man, like, this is what I'm trying to do, but tell me about your life, what you got going on, and not really sales pitch the whole H2F thing, but maybe get to know somebody, I bet they have something in their life that they would like some help with, or that, maybe not. Maybe they don't need anything. Maybe they're great and they're rocking and everything. And then you can be like, yo, have you thought about going to H2FI? Like, you are on it. You exercise, you fit mentally, like really there. Like, let's get you to the course. Let's teach other people how to do this. Relating to people is probably the hardest skill I see strength coaches take to grasp. Like, they want to do sets and reps. They want to do all this stuff, but you get so much more out of relating to somebody and then just handing them like a general program. And if they want to do it for you, then they're going to make a lot more progress than somebody who doesn't like you that's told they're forced to be with you all day. That's my opinion. I don't know. I could be completely wrong.
The way I've been thinking about this lately and the conversations I have with the coaches on my team lately is it's about levers. Like, for any given person, there are hundreds of different levers they could pull in terms of making changes related to their own health and fitness. They're not going to pull all of them. And some of them are going to make a big difference, and some of them are going to make a really tiny difference. Some of them they're interested in, some of them they don't want to do at all. And the coach's job, in my eyes, in this kind of scenario, is to help identify all those levers and then narrow it down to like one or two that both are going to make the biggest difference for the person in the situation they're currently in, and that they're most likely to actually stick with. And like, finding those levers for people is what the conversation's all about, at least in my head.
Yeah. I would agree 100%. Like, if you try to do everything all at once, it's not going to work. But if you try to really hit like two main points that matter to someone, it's going to work a lot better. And that's kind of where I see the Army Reserve right now is really struggling H2F wise, is at the very tippy top level. They're coming. The word coming down is you're not doing H2F unless you're doing it our way with 100% of everything. And it's like, that's not the way to message it. We need to take one step forward, then another step before we get to all the resources. And oftentimes for soldiers, the physical is kind of the easiest foot in the door because they're familiar with it. And then especially on the reserve side where they don't have defects, they have to make all their food themselves. Nutrition, it leads right into that. Physical and nutrition everyone asks me about physical and nutrition. And once you got a good buy-in there, we can really start to get into the like, all right, sleep stuff. We can get into the mental performance stuff. The spiritual aspect is there with the chaplains, like just make sure that they're involved. But it's about getting that foot in the door, whatever you can do to get there. And for me, physical is kind of an easier one just because people are familiar with it.
This could probably be its own episode entirely, but I want to just quickly touch on the role that technology plays here, whether that's wearables, apps, you mentioned athlete management systems, just kind of walk through that ecosystem.
All right. So we use the athlete management system. They sign up. Ours is a little different. I know like Train Heroic, Team Builder, all those guys, the coaches build these, like can build pretty robust programs in there. We can build programs in ours. The nice part about ours is there's about 300 different exercise programs made from different coaches all throughout the country, from one's working with police, one's working with fire, one's working with the FBI, one's working with SWAT teams, one's working with the military, Air Force, all over the place. And you can pick your own program from those. So that is a nice thing. The coach can also assign you a program from those. And then from there, you can do the program just like any other athlete management system. It's also got some healthy recipes on there and some breathing exercises, which is kind of cool, like on our little athlete management system. As far as wearables go, I have the same opinion you guys do on wearables. Everyone wants the wearable and they're like, this is what's going to make me work out. It's like, not really, man. It's going to give you a bunch of data. And if you don't know what you're looking at, you don't know what you're looking at. I will say sometimes for people, the wearable is the motivation. People that are like, I bought my little wearable watch. I make sure I get 10,000 steps in a day now. It's like, okay, cool. Like you use the tracking function. That is good. Wear the wearable ring. You get better sleep because you're more conscious of like, hey, I got to get to sleep at the right time because my ring's going to tell me I got bad sleep score. That kind of stuff. I do think the wearables get a little overplayed and people put a little too much importance on the wearable. If I can count how many people have talked to me about their HRV number that don't know what HRV is, like,
Yeah.
So I would be remiss if I didn't sneak this in here. I have been aware of a couple reserve, well, I guess these are National Guard units that implemented app-based human performance stuff. Like went off and found a company that has one and like signed a contract for it. And maybe there's stuff I'm missing, but the ones I'm aware of, they pretty quickly leveled off at like a single digit number of daily active users across the entire state.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to what you said there. Like you have some intrinsically motivated people who went out and bought a watch and it's their motivation and stuff, but like that's a person who cared enough to buy the watch themselves. If you just hand out watches or hand out licenses to a program, like there are infinity free strength and conditioning programs on the internet. Like if handing somebody a program and nothing else was going to do it, we'd be there.
Well, the best one is Long and Strong. You guys can find it on our website. Anyway, keep going. No free ads.
But to be clear, like we are guilty of the exact same selection bias issue where everybody who signs up for Long and Strong and trains with us is somebody who cared enough and trusted us enough to put some of their own money on the table. And that's true of every private gym. I remember when I was new to human performance, walking into a gym outside Fort Bragg where a lot of military people trained. And a lot of those military people had their own human performance staff back at their units, but were going to this private facility instead. I was like, why can't we build this inside our organizations? It's literally because of buy-in. Like in private scenarios, they literally bought in. They decided, I care enough. This is the guy, or this is the program, or this is the company that I like. I'm gonna put some of my money on the table because I care. Or this is the device that I like, so I put some of my money on the table. I have been involved in providing wearables to service members. Every random person who buys a wearable device figures out how to use it and what the software does and what it shows them and what it doesn't show them and how they can track it and how they get more out of it. Everybody who is issued a device never bothers to learn what it's even capable of. Like, because they don't care. They didn't buy in. It's just something that was handed to them. Some of them do. I get it. Like once in a while it works, but
we found one in a parking lot not too long ago.
Yeah, you can't hand out these things and expect it to make any kind of difference without something that goes with it.
Yeah. It's the same thing was seen in the reserves when they did wearables as part of that pilot for a small group, and most of them never left the box that they were people in. Like,
but you would think that, like, I mean, I guess I would think that if I'm a reservist and I have somebody like you writing me programming that I can access, that seems like an easy. The fact that it gets down to, like Alex just mentioned, a single digit number of users is kind of crazy to me. I would have thought that would be higher, but
yeah, that's where that relationship piece comes in. If they have you to put the program in there for them and they have that, like, I don't want to let my coach down. Like my coach is doing this for me. They're more likely to stick with it. The people that I engage with the most that keep coming back to me for stuff are the ones that, they're intrinsically motivated, but they're also ones that I've sat down with and it's like, hey, we went through their program. They did it, maybe the first few months of it or first few weeks, and they're seeing some results and they want to advance. So there's a lot of things that work into, like, is someone going to stick with it? But the buy-in piece, like you said, is huge. Reserves are a little weird though. Every time I go somewhere, they ask me how much it costs to do H2F. Like, how much does a program cost? How much? And I, like, when I tell them that, like, USARC is paying me to be here to, like, do this for them, then I get a lot of people who are like, ooh, well, like, maybe I can get rid of my personal trainer. Or maybe
they want to know how much they have to pay you to do the thing.
Yeah, like,
the
reserves are not used to free stuff the way active duty is.
Yeah. So like when I do provide a free service, I get some buy-in from that aspect, not from the purchasing aspect, but from the, now I can eliminate an expense in my regular life and you can provide this to me. I've gotten pretty good results off that. And
if you did start charging for your services under the table, do you think compliance would increase?
no, I don't.
If they ask you, you're like, you know what, fuck it, it's $10. Like, okay, here.
I don't think that would work. I think some people probably would, but I don't think it would work. I'll tell you though, the amount, like I said, I've written over 500 programs in 9 months for people. The amount of people that have probably gotten their individualized personal program and looked at it one time, but the half of those maybe.
It's so annoying. I've done that. You spend so much time, they don't even look at it. It's like, son of a bitch.
I'm a believer in like you prove that you care enough about this by doing a generic program first, and then you like earn your way to individualization.
Yeah.
Everyone,
I didn't believe in that until I started working for a big army. Then I was like, okay, I get it.
everyone gets a 4-week general program from me, kind of towards their goals. I have them all pre-made. If you want to run faster, if you want to lift more, whatever your goal is, like you kind of get the general one. At the end of it, you just got to hit me up, man. Well, you can hit me up after week 1 and be like, I want to do something else. And then I'll make you something else. At least you care a little bit.
That's fair. I think it's a good
And
strategy.
a lot of generic programs too. Like the most common thing I get asked for is like a run program. You know,
Yeah.
you want to pass my 2-mile run. I've got your 50 days of consistent running. Do that. Here's phase 1 and phase 2, 50 days, 50 days. If you can't pass the AFT by the end of this, you didn't do it. Like that, you just didn't do it.
What do you think of the Mops and Mo's fitness aptitude test?
I like it. So I did read it today. I really like the pull-ups. Love the pull-ups. I like the deadlift.
2 for 3.
I don't love a 5-mile run. I get why you guys did it. I truly get why you guys did it. But in reserve setting,
Yeah, the population you're dealing with. Yeah.
do not.
That's the point.
To run 5 miles. No, I get that. Like you're trying to get to the 5 miles. It's a goal to set yourself.
Sure.
I get the 5-mile run as a good like general health fitness test. A lot of soldiers don't have a job that will ever require them to run, period.
Well, they're soldiers.
I think a 2-mile test can accomplish general aerobic fitness. However, I understand why you. I like it in your test, and I like it for your population.
I disagree with you, but I understand why I disagree with you.
I don't love it for every population, but I like it for especially the people you're talking about, the motivated people that want to get better. I think
fair.
You guys would be shocked. Like I know you guys are both like kind of you exercise, you understand.
We train, Mark. We train.
I
We
have
don't
been in
exercise, we
Army
train.
Reserve intel units.
Yeah.
I'm aware. Yeah.
You fully understand that people do not care about running at all.
Yeah.
Like
that was where I started to understand that like sometimes people DNF the ACFT 2-mile.
Great for
Like, yeah. Yeah.
But should we? I mean, God, we're going to spiral so fast here. But like, should we allow that? And I know you're saying you agree in theory with the 5-mile, but like, I guess my point is, do you want to have an organization that consists of people who DNF a 2-mile run? I mean, that's kind of like, and okay, fine. They're on.
But you have to meet where they're at.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
There's gotta be
In some cases.
No, Mark brings up a valid issue because
I know.
the
I get
problem-
the counter argument.
the problem with Mops and Mo's is that our whole audience, because of the fact that they are our audience, already cares about fitness significantly more than most of the military. Like these are the people who sought out this platform to talk about these issues and learn more about this thing, right? Through the Mops and Mo's platform, we will almost never get to communicate directly with the people who need what we can offer the most.
Of course.
Because they're not looking for it.
But in the Guard Reserve, you have the ability to implement a forcing function. Because it's like and I get, again, I'm making this up for funsies. I understand the counter. I'm going to get ripped apart probably on social media. But I think that there's a spectrum here. And at some point on that spectrum, it's like we can't tolerate somebody who can't, like you just mentioned a VO2 of 18 or less, you can't fucking live. So clearly there's a floor that we can't go below, but should we elevate that floor slightly closer to the ceiling by having a harder, in our case, 5 miles event that requires you to like fucking, get up and move, maybe? I don't know.
You've reminded me, and I should correct myself. I knew I was off when I said it. When I talked about the line of fragility, frailty is the medical diagnosis. It's called frailty, not fragility.
Oh,
Sorry.
fragility sounds a little cooler, I think.
Yeah, sorry.
You're fragile.
True.
Frail.
I think you would be surprised at how many people would just say like, I don't care, and not do the 5 mile and still stay in the Army for a long period of time, having never done a 5 mile. Yeah.
What would happen if it was this would never happen, but what would happen if it was like you either do it or you're not in anymore? You're done.
What would be?
We would lose the Guard and Reserve. Like the Guard and Reserve already do not kick people out for failing body composition and the existing ACFT, AFT. Like I think under the APFT, I had conversations with some of my Reserve and Guard friends. I think the part-time Army's failure rate on those tests was pretty close to 50%. In a lot of places.
Tolerating?
Yes.
To have numbers?
Yes.
Is that okay?
It's reality.
It depends, right? Like, do I need? This is kind of the classic argument. Like, do I need my heart surgeon to run a 15-minute 2 mile? It's like probably not.
Well, okay, but let me ask you this: if you were about to go get heart surgery and you had 2 surgeons to choose from, one could run 5 miles, one couldn't. Who would you choose to do your heart surgery?
I would look at their success and failure rate. Probably the fit one, like out of the offhand.
Right? That's,
Now, I think it's worth discussing for a second. We're already over an hour.
Yeah,
we're spiraling a little bit.
I told you it was going to happen.
But I do think it's worth discussing. We operate under this framework of a zero-sum game where if you want somebody to be fitter, they're going to be less proficient at something else. And I don't think that is the reality for most people. I think most people, if they improve their baseline level of fitness, would have better tolerance for stress.
Yes.
They'd get better sleep at night. They'd have more energy for social things. They'd get more value out of social and family activities because they have that energy. I think it's downward spirals and virtuous cycles, right? It's not trade-offs in a zero-sum game situation. It's if things are headed in the wrong direction, all the things head in the wrong direction. If you get things headed in the right direction, a lot of other things tend to head in the right direction as well.
Yes.
Which supports my point.
So plenty of soldiers come up to me after they've done their like first month of programming and they're like, yo, I feel better. I generally feel better. And like, how do you quantify I feel better? Like, I don't know. I can't like put a 1 or a 0 on that, but I feel better is a pretty common. I started exercising more. I feel better.
You quantify it with force plates. Everyone knows this. You fucking jump on a force plate. And if you go higher, that means you're better.
Really, I think we do get caught up a little bit too much in the I need to quantify everything. Like, hey,
you're on the right podcast.
McNamara's fallacy for our listeners. You're noticing
there we
themes.
Go.
Yeah,
Mops and nose.
Like, I've got so many anecdotal, just kind of like 2-sentence. People fill out a like satisfaction survey, and this is what they say that are good news stories that I can't quantify, man. I can't quantify like, hey, I stopped drinking soda and I feel better. I don't know why I keep using that as an example. Like, talked to a dude today who did that. So like, but I feel better is a massive win, and you can't quantify. Like, it's
there's your soundbite.
All right. We are already over an hour. I want to squeeze one last thing in. It was going to make sense in a transition earlier because we were talking about fitness tests, but we just kind of spiraled for a second. So I missed the opportunity for an easy transition. But speaking of fitness tests and our opinions about them, Mark, I did warn you we were going to talk about this before we came on the air. And I'll state up front, Double Eagle Fitness Challenge, DFIT, whatever we're calling it. I, as a member of the Army Reserve who really likes fitness and is like a little bit motivated by competition and stuff, think it sucks. I don't like it. I think it's the wrong thing for the population. I think it's lunacy that it's like entirely self-reported on Excel spreadsheets on a CAC-enabled secure website that most reservists can't even get onto most of the time. I think it's ridiculous that it's entirely volume-based. Like, there's nothing to it other than can you accrue an insane amount of volume of different activities. I think there's been attempts to H2Fify it in recent years. But, like...
What is Double Eagle Fit?
You go. I want your opinion. I want to know what you think. But
What
that's
is it?
me.
The Double Eagle Fitness Challenge is a reserve challenge that kind of kicks off the post New Year. So it usually starts around March. So it's after people have kind of quit the gym and stuff to get them back into working out. It lasts for about 10 weeks. I think this last one was 10 weeks long. And you accrue points or volume in running miles or cardio miles on various implements, pounds lifted, TMR, which you talked about in your last podcast episode that I listened to.
TMR?
Time.
TMR, Tactical Mobility Active Recovery, aka yoga.
Oh God, dude, I fucking forgot about that.
Hit time. Don't get me started on the definition of hit in what it actually.
Oh yeah, the
Why is it double eagle?
sloppy definition of hit.
What is
the Army Reserve patch is 2 eagles.
So I love the concept of a fitness challenge, right? Like that should be motivating. And honestly, where I worked, it was super motivating. AR MedCom took second place, so go AR MedCom. But
oh yeah,
like they were very motivated to participate. I like the idea of a fitness challenge that is motivational. I think a lot of people are motivated by competition. Is it ridiculous that someone reported doing 2 million pounds of volume in 10 weeks? Yeah, that was insane.
Hold on, 2 million pounds in 10 weeks.
Yeah,
keep talking. I'm gonna math that real quick.
I don't know. Like I think I figured out if you get on a reverse hyper and just swing for like 100 reps at a time, you can knock out a massive amount of volume.
Yeah,
2 million.
So that's it's when you start saying that like pound, like rep pounds, whatever you want to call volume measurement is like transferable across exercises. You've lost the thread, right? Like I can shrug a lot of pounds. Or I can like it just doesn't, I don't know.
That's 28,571 pounds per day.
Yeah, if you're working out every like that is a high number, but if you do that every day, I'm sure you're not feeling great.
Well, I just asked, so how many 225 pound squats would that be? You'd have to squat 225 127 times a day for 10 weeks. Very doable.
Yeah,
it's very doable.
But some of these numbers, man.
I'm kidding. Yeah. It's not.
So like we know that the reserve, if we had to like pick the primary fitness issue, it's pass rates.
Yes.
It's not how many people are maxing it. It's not how many people are going to Ranger school. It's pass rates. And I'll just like read off the memo from last year's fitness challenge. Run, walk, ruck, minimum distance of 12 miles per week. Bike, minimum distance 40 miles per week. Swim, minimum distance 3,200 meters per week. Like the examples it gives are like this guy like runs 6 miles and rows 7.5 miles. Like it's just not an appropriate prescription for the people that you're worried about. Like the already fit people are the only ones who are going to participate. And like I know I've looked at the Facebook pages. I've been a part of them. I know it motivates some people to do a lot of physical activity. I am worried that some of those people are doing too much too soon, coming off of a period of not doing enough.
It doesn't play to the TPU soldiers or the part-time soldiers.
It plays to the AGRs.
Yeah. And I work at a location with a lot of AGRs. They did really well in the competition because they have a lot of AGRs who are already motivated because they are held to the same standard as active duty. They have to take their PT test twice a year. You can lose that AGR spot. You cannot get slotted for schools. Your career won't progress. So they're a little bit more motivated. It doesn't play to the TPU soldiers for a lot of reasons you just described. You can't log on for the most part to log your time if you don't have like CAC enabled access outside of your reserve center.
It's literally on Intel Link, right? Am I crazy?
Yeah,
like that's ridiculous. Yeah. Like
figuring out a way, like the Army is a massive organization. You think that they could figure out a way to make a basic secure login in a Google Sheet or something that feeds into a Google Looker or Power BI dashboard, and you would just log all your stuff on there. It would be easy to do. There's no secret information that's being shared, so I don't understand that. But I like the concept of a challenge. I like the timing of it, the right after kind of that fall off from New Year's. I think it's really good timing. It's in that spring period leading into summer when a lot of people are getting back into fitness anyway to get, summer ready. And then I think that the volume prescriptions, like you described, are not appropriate for everybody. They're appropriate for people who are already fit and already working out. And there's this drive to do more and more and more and more, to the point that, yes, people are pushing beyond those numbers to maybe injure themselves and maybe do a little too much more than they're capable of. I think there's probably a better way to do a Double Eagle fitness challenge. And I don't know how to get around the self-reporting, though, other than like telling everyone to go buy watches and linking them up. And we already discussed the problems with that.
I mean, CrossFit Open does it. I know these people aren't going to film themselves doing, Metcons, but
yeah. And my hope is that it helps some people get back into working out or stay working out. But the reality of it is it's probably feeding on to the fittest people who are already fit to keep pushing and keep doing it.
What do you win? Did I miss that? What's the point?
Unit wins a medal.
Oh, sick.
You get a certificate if you complete it, for like a certificate that you completed it. The units that place in the top 3, I think for large, medium, and small units, each get a medal. It's it's not you don't get a ton, but it is motivational to the AGR soldiers. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it is a good thing that is maybe not executed up to the appropriate level.
Interesting.
Big thing. Just let people log in outside of their CAC enabled login.
Yeah, that just seems like one of the basics of everybody who's been in an Army Reserve unit knows if you want to communicate with the soldiers, it's not on Outlook, it's not on Teams. You have to have their personal emails, you have to have their cell phone numbers, or a Signal chat or whatever the thing is you guys use for your organization. But again, if I'm a weird reserve. I'm not that weird. A lot of reservists are in the same situation I am, where they also work for the DoD in their day job. It's it's not that big a deal for me to have 2 Outlook accounts logged in or 2 Teams accounts logged in. But that's not everybody. And a lot of people have jobs where they I would not feel like it was reasonable if I signed up for 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks a year, and then people expected me to monitor an email inbox daily.
Yeah.
That just doesn't seem reasonable.
So you're expected to participate in this thing that gets you a medal.
It's a volunteer. You don't.
It's voluntary.
Yeah.
It's not it's not required.
Because presumably, if you get hurt while doing this, you aren't covered.
That would be my interpretation of how policy currently is in the Army Reserve. Yeah.
And this is something we're okay with. Okay, Mark, we can't let you go without an infamous Mops and Mo's closer. This one's pretty straightforward. All the money, all the time, all the resources in the world. How do you construct Army Reserve human performance?
I could put a contracted strength and conditioning coach, athletic trainer, and dietitian at every major reserve center in the country. And then for smaller reserve centers, they get a strength coach. You said unlimited money. So
yeah, you've got unlimited money.
Every major reserve center gets a fully outfitted your fit facility. Every minor reserve center, smaller reserve center gets 2 to 3 gym in a boxes, 1 for each unit.
Hey, pause. PureFit, not a sponsor of the show. There are other equipment suppliers out there.
Yeah.
No free ads.
Yeah.
PureFit, if you're listening, we will accept, an invoice.
If you want.
Just throwing it out there.
No, but in all seriousness, at a reasonable level that can be attainable, I would say get every brigade, every battalion, and every company at least have an OIC and NCOIC of H2F, and each major subordinate command, preferably having 4 or 5 strength coaches that they can place regionally, and then the readiness divisions having control of all the organic assets like the TPU units or the TPU soldiers I kind of talked about earlier, and they can send those TPU soldiers to units wanting H2F services. The major subordinate commands having 4 or 5 strength and conditioning coaches, athletic trainers, all that stuff that they can shift around to different areas, give them regional areas to kind of be in charge of, allow them to live in those areas. Don't make them live at the major subordinate command, and then allow travel for all those positions. I don't mind travel in the job. Like, some people would really hate the travel, but allow travel so that you can get around to your units. Unlimited travel fund would be nice. So any unit, that's a more realistic goal. Like, step one, let's get some people assigned to every single unit who's going to be the H2F liaison or H2F point of contact, so that information can get out to them. Did I just?
You turned into a silhouette.
No, I like how
talking.
it got like just dark enough at Mark's house that he went into like anonymous mode.
As we started talking about brand names and sponsorships, he just slowly turned into a silhouette. Who did we do? Was that a Newton Chang podcast where he did the same thing?
Why didn't you have your light on the whole time?
Because I had the window.
It was fine earlier. It just got dark in the last few minutes.
Slowly.
Someone down the other side of the house.
You know, I have a lot of respect for you, because we have asked that question in some fashion to a lot of people. You're the only one that actually took advantage of unlimited resources. You're like, fuck it, everyone's traveling, everyone's getting staff, everyone's getting facilities. I almost said the brand. Well done.
I mean, you see unlimited funds, man. They get it.
Hey, you're right. We did. Oh, actually, you know what? While you're here, Desert Island, one piece of equipment. What are you taking?
Everyone says kettlebell, so I'm gonna.
Well, no, somebody said incline bench.
Yeah,
which was fucking weird.
For that guy. I'm gonna say sled.
Oh, in the sand?
Yeah, like, I mean, there's got to be some grass parts.
I don't think you choose the geography of your island.
I'm just on a sandy island that's like a giant ball.
Most islands are pretty sandy.
There's no jungle portion of my island.
How about a sandbag? You could throw it around your apartment.
Yeah.
Like, whoever that guy is. Man. Well, thank you for coming on and hanging out with us. It's been a pleasure. Like I said, I haven't seen your face since you left us. So,
oh, man,
thanks for coming on.
Appreciate anything that will bring light to H2F and the Army Reserve. Like, we want to get it out there. We want to bring awareness to it.
I will.
Your Google searches are nailing it. So.
Before we let Mark go completely, I will say I Google image searched Desert Island, and other than the like animated fake ones, almost all of them do have some like grassy / vegetated / jungle portion. So I'm
obviously everyone has seen Tarzan. We know
you could probably find
like.
a sled track
to like haul sticks from the island.
That's true. It provides a utility purpose as well.
We hadn't explored that. That's a valid point. Okay, we'll put that up on the leaderboard just above incline bench. All right, gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Team, welcome to the tail end, the back half, the closing ceremony for our conversation with Mark.
Drew cannot decide on a name for what this is. Sometimes it's after hours. Sometimes it's the after party.
We should just call it after party. Welcome to the after party. The Mops and Mo's after party. Anyway, it should be exceedingly obvious to the listener that I learned a lot tonight about the way that the Guard and Reserve is structured. Didn't really realize it was a double eagle. But no, I think I will have said this in the intro, but you know, Mark and I worked together for a number of years on like big H2F. And so it's really cool to see him thrive in the reserve environment. He's obviously doing a lot of really cool things. And we've had a couple of conversations now about that space. I think inevitably there's probably more to come because it is growing. It just seems like a hell of a problem set, though, I will say. You know it better than I do because you're in it, but man, that's a big challenge.
I don't know it as well as I probably should as somebody who's in the Army Reserve. Like I still barely know how to be a reservist. Heads up, if you're like anybody at headquarters Army Reserve, there might need to be some kind of like, welcome to the Army Reserve. Here's all the stuff you need to know about managing your own career and taking care of yourself and insurance and all these things that nobody ever tells you about. Like you just transition from active duty to the reserve, and like people think that because you're an officer, you know what's going on. I still do not. I do not know what's going on in the Army Reserve. But probably the part of the Army Reserve I know the most about might be like the health and fitness component of this whole thing. And you are right, it is a gigantic challenge. It's really hard because people have like their lives they go back to for most of every month, and there's only so much you can do when you can't technically require anything of them during that time. Yes, there's an expectation that you show up fit and taking care of yourself, but what does that mean? Hard to say.
And I will also, because if people aren't aware, we record the after parties immediately when we finish talking to the guests, and then we come back later and do the intro. So I'm sort of just assuming that we will have covered this in the intro. But one of the reasons why we had Mark on here is because he has been prolific on the Discord server, speaking specifically about the active guard, not the active, sorry, the guard and reserve space. And so if you are out there and you are in one of these units, either in a position of influence or you're just a regular Joe who wants to incorporate some of this stuff, reach out to Mark. We'll have his contact info in the show notes, but more importantly, he's also written a bunch of stuff for us, so you can get his info there. You can also find him on the Discord. He is very, very accessible, very willing to share this stuff. So I think the reserve and the guard specifically, it seems like a lot of these initiatives are very grassroots, very organic, very much created by, you know, one or two folks who just have a passion for it. And Mark is one of those people. So if you are hearing this and you want to learn more or just get in touch with somebody who could mentor you to kind of stand one of these things up, Mark is your guy, and you can find him in a number of places on our platform. So
I'm correct in saying I think that Mark is the single greatest guest contributor to the blog.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
By far. Yes.
Yeah. He
did his 5-part series. We just finished up his 5-part series on the, I was going to say 28 Days Later, but that's the movie. The other 28 days, which is kind of his overview of this problem set. But he has also contributed a number of other bits and pieces. I think he may have internally committed to like at least one piece of content a month, which is pretty cool. So
that might be
definitely a
more than
name
I've
you'll
produced
see.
the last couple months.
It's more than for sure you and me too in some sense. But anyway, you'll see a lot of him around the Mops and Mo space in the future. So yeah, enjoy the conversation. See you guys next week. Hey Alex, let's cover our ass real quick.
Oh, great idea, Drew. All right, guys. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. Before you go, please rate and review the pod on the listening platform of your choice. You can also visit us on our website at www.mopsinmos.com. That's mops, the letter N, mos.com. You can check out the library of podcast episodes, our latest blog entries, any helpful resources, and also sign up for our newsletter.
Drew nailed it. Just to underline a couple of things, the podcast entries have in-depth show notes on the website. So if you missed anything or you want to read any of the research we talk about, it is all there. You can, at the bottom of the website, sign up with your email and receive future updates from us. The blog posts go a little bit more in depth in kind of written form on a couple of topics we get questions about all the time. But most importantly, I just want to ask all you guys, our best way the word gets out is absolutely word of mouth. So tell your friends, tell the people you work with, anybody you think would find it useful. Thanks for spreading the word.
If you have any questions or comments, feel free to shoot us an email at either Drew or Alex at mopsandmos.com.
Or there's a contact form on the website.
Thank you.